guys. So I'm hoping that I can get this video and get as much information as possible with not taking up too much time. So I'm going to kind of like get right into it because this subject and as if you saw my most recent video about going back to work, I'm going to be doing a series of videos about going back to work because it is such a hot topic and one that has so much information. And if I do a bunch of little videos, it helps moms, I think, get more out of like that specific point or tip than if I were to try to just like rush through it. And when I made those videos prior, I had felt the same way, that I wanted to make sure that I got the tips out and so forth. But I'm going to go about it a little bit different now. So I kind of want to get right into it. So this one's going to be about working and breastfeeding. And the last video was talking about planning your maternity leave. And I think that planning your baby's care, like where your baby is going to be taken care of or who's going to be taking care of the baby, is also something to start planning while you're pregnant. I'm sorry, I keep doing this. My bangs are getting in my face and they're driving me nuts. So I really, really believe that planning their care while you're pregnant is very, very crucial for your well-being. Just kind of like for your sense of what's the word? How do I want to put it? Just for your, oh goodness, I can't think of the for your own peace of mind. There we go. For your own peace of mind. Because when you go back to work, you're going to already have so many emotions going through you, and you're going to feel like, is this the right decision? You're just going to feel it's going to be really, really tough. So to plan things that you don't have to worry about after the baby's born, and you can just focus on your baby, and when the time is right, you go back to work and you don't have to be stressing about all these other added extra things, especially when it's your first baby, because if it's your second or third baby, you've got most of this stuff down already. But if it's your first baby, you're just learning it, and it's just so today's going to be about planning baby's care. There is so much out there as far as childcare goes. You can have like a really rigid childcare schedule. It could be more like a school versus like a home environment. It really depends on like your preference and your just kind of like how you feel about what you want your baby experiencing when you're not there. Now, if you have a family member like, a grandparent, an aunt, whatever, that makes it even better. It makes all of this so much easier. And most of the stuff that I'm going to mention, will be like a piece of cake if it's somebody in your family. So that's something you got to think about. Do you have the type of job, type of schedule, you and your husband or your partner, that when the baby's born, you could like work opposite, so that like for me, I worked in the afternoon, my husband worked during the day, and when he would come home, I would go to work, and we didn't have to worry about childcare. And I did this because I couldn't afford childcare. I would have preferred to go to work during the day with my husband, come home in the afternoon with the baby, and have my evenings with my husband and the baby as a family. But at the same time, I also liked the idea that my husband would be taking care of the kids versus me having to trust someone else. But I had 4 children, and I have had all different types of daycare. At some point in time, I worked at the same time as my husband did. Other times, I had to take my children to a daycare. So, like, my first child went to a daycare. But then as, like my second one went to a friend in the apartment building. Then, the third, I think it was Dad. That was when I like switched and Dad babysat. And then my fourth, my sister-in-law babysat. So I was kind of like, I had like all different forms of childcare with all of my children. So it's really, really important to start thinking about your childcare. Who is going to provide that childcare, and what type? If it is going to be like a, outside, it's not going to be a family member. What type of daycare are you looking for? Are you, and these are some things that you want to think about. So if you are going to be looking at daycares and you're going to go through, like a list, you're going to just see so many options, so many daycares, so many people are doing that. And so you're going to want to make appointments, and you're going to want to go in, and you're going to want to view. And sometimes it's good to just show up so that you can kind of like see, like how things are being done without anybody knowing that this is what you're doing, It's important because then you kind of get an idea of how your baby's treated when no one is around, and they know that they're not being watched. So the first thing you might want to consider is a daycare that's the closest to your work, or I'm going to add the closest to your home. Now, the closer to your work in the sense is the closer the baby is to work, the less time that you have to worry about like breastfeeding, like in between the time you leave work and you get to your baby. Are your breasts going to be really full and you're ready to feed? And that 30 minutes can feel like 20 minutes or, 2 hours if, you plan on like feeding as soon as you see the baby. And the recommendation is to allow enough time to breastfeed the baby before you go to work, like right away. Like if you can breastfeed at the daycare, that's like the best. You get there, you get the baby together, you breastfeed, you leave, you come back in the evening, you breastfeed them, and then you go home. And the reason being so that there's less bottles having to be given at the daycare, and the more time you get to spend to feed the baby. And I know there are many mothers who will go when the daycare is close to home or close to work. They can go and take their lunch and breastfeed on their lunch time. So that's something to think about. When you're talking to your employer, you're going to know if this is something even possible for you. Another thing that you want to ask the daycare providers are, you're going to want to be leaving your milk there, have a supply of breast milk there. How are they going to store it, and do they know the proper storage and handling, and are they going to accept that? Will they let you, store your milk there? Some will charge you more or say that they cannot keep your milk with the formula. And so in that case, I'm going to leave a link below that you can go to. It's a CDC website, and basically it's something that you can print off and give to the daycare that says, there's no special precautions that you have to take with having, mom's milk there, breast milk in the fridge and so forth. So that is something that you can print and show that if let's say you go to a daycare provider and you really like everything, but this is what they're saying about the milk supply storage type of thing. Then you want to know, what is the facility's feeding schedule? Are they like really rigid and strict that, okay, we feed at noon and then we feed at 2, or are they going to feed on cue? So if the baby is, and that's how we want breastfed babies. We want them to be fed on cue. But we understand that, it's a facility, especially if it's not like a smaller place or a family member, that the baby might not be able to be fed on cue. And we understand that. There's going to be times, when that may not be possible. So finding out how rigid their schedule is it flexible, that kind of thing. And find out if they use a schedule. It may be they say, oh, well, we just kind of like see when the baby wants it. Or if they say, yes, we want the baby schedule. I remember when I used to babysit, I would always say, I want to know like what your baby likes, how they like to be held, their favorite things when they take their naps, all that kind of stuff. And so find out from the provider if they want that type of information from you, or if they basically do their own and then, go from there. So again, that's really, really important. And I wanted to make mention of this before I really got into it, but I forgot, and now I'm seeing it, and I want to make sure that you understand that you are an advocate for your child. So you may feel like you're talking to older women who will say, well, I've been doing this for 20-something years or 30 years, or I've breastfed, I've worked and breastfed, or I've been taking care of breastfed kids forever, and blah, blah, blah. But you are your own child's advocate. And as much as they might be experienced and might know their own thing, you are paying for their service. So they have to provide you with what you want. Now, okay, maybe, there's some little give and take that you'll do. But if you say, I want my baby breastfed, or I want my baby bottle fed a certain way, and they are, okay, well, I don't really know. But if they're willing to do it, but they would say, oh, well, they try to give their advice. You say, this is just how I want to do it. This is how I feel that I want it to be done. Whether I'm right or I'm wrong, I can learn the hard way, whatever. You are your baby's advocate. You are paying for that service, so you have a right to let them know what you want. And then you get to make the choice whether you want them to care for your baby or not. Let's see. Another really, really important point is that, see, I'm already at 12 minutes. This is what is so hard. Another really, really important point is that some babies they're like gulpers, and they just eat quickly, and this can make it hard for you if they're like out of sync with your breast, like when you're pumping. So you need to find a way to make sure that you're in sync with your baby's feeding, if you know what I mean. And then also making sure that baby is ready to nurse when you arrive. Making sure that baby is the last bottle they get before you arrive should be enough time that allows you to get there and feed them, where they're not passing their feeding schedule. They're not going to be upset. And if you're going to be late, it's important to call and let them know, go ahead and give them a bottle, or, those kinds of things, because, you're setting up this schedule and you want to make sure that you're comfortable, but you also want to make sure that the baby's getting fed, accordingly as well. And I remember how frustrating it would be when I would pump, say 1 o'clock, I was going home at 3. I didn't pump again. I wanted to go home and feed my baby right then. And then I'd find out she had a bottle already, like just 10 minutes before I got there. And that would really bother me. So in that case, say I'm on my way, make sure you don't give a bottle after 2 o'clock, whatever the case, let them know. They can do that for you. Another thing is, if you can sit down, and this sounds kind of funny, but if you can sit down and feed your baby there, it would actually be good for you, because you can pick up some of the germs and bacteria from the daycare, which sounds really, really awful, but then your body will build the antibodies against those germs and bacteria, and then you pass that to your baby. So that's kind of a good thing. So if you can find a way to do that, that would be a positive for you. Daycare providers, and I mentioned this a little bit, we've just kind of talked about it, can be really intimidating, but just remembering you're paying for their service. So don't allow them to intimidate you. And then it's really important that you talk to your caregiver about how the bottle should be given to, how do I want to put it, so that it's the easiest with breastfeeding. And I will do a link below that I would like you to watch. It shows how you should bottle feed a baby that is breastfeeding, so that they can transition well and you're not causing like any confusion. And typically it's just kind of where the bottle is, straight across. Vertical, is that horizontal or vertical? I'm so bad about that. But, and just making sure that there's just milk in the nipple. And then they can stop and breathe when they need to. And then they can suck some more. But when you tip the bottle, they don't have a choice. They just have to suck because it's coming at them. So by having it, in a manner that just the nipple has the milk in it, allows baby to suck, take a little break, suck again, because that's how they breastfeed. And I'm going to have something linked below that you can take a look at that kind of shows you, or a picture that will show you how this is done. So quality baby daycare would be a low staff turnover, because that would show that your child isn't constantly exposed to a bunch of newcomers and people that are just, coming on and starting a whole new thing. A low child to staff ratio, because you wouldn't want like 1 child to 5 kids, because then it's like having quintuplets. And then, your baby is like 1 of 5, and their attention is not going to be given. So a low child to staff ratio, so like one staff to maybe 2 children or 3 children, like just trying to find as low as possible. Also minimal structure. You want there to be structure, but then at the same time, children need love and attention, and sometimes that can get overlooked when you're too busy with this structure, routine, plan. It has to be this way. So looking for minimal structure, a setting that will store, use, and respect your milk. And you want caregivers who are warm and affectionate, not rigid or rushed, and then you also want to be looking at a setting that allows older children to be able to have time outside. So finding out, do they go outside and play? Do they have activities outside? That's also a good thing, because if you're going to be working, eventually babies grow really fast, and you're going to want to know if baby's going to be able to go outside, and you don't want necessarily in the middle of all that to have unnecessary change in, like, okay, the daycare was great for the baby, but now he's older, she's older, and I don't feel like it fits. So try to kind of think a little bit ahead, a little ahead as well. I was rushed in talking about those. I hope that answers some of your questions, and I hope that it helps a little bit, because it's really, really important subject. So I hope that all of that, is good for you. Any questions, feel free to comment below, email me, subscribe to my channel, and yeah, just let me know if there's anything else that you need from me, or if you have questions or concerns. All right, guys, I hope that helps, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.